Thank you very much for that introduction. And also thank you to Almazan for organising this event. And I'll get another kind mention later when I explain how we started and who's been an important supporter. As was explained, Sufra is a food bank and kitchen. And to kind of give a bit of a theme to this talk, it's really, the subtitle is a case study in addressing food poverty, like what to do about food poverty. Sufra provides a lifeline for families who simply don't have enough food to eat. We live in a welfare state, and there are so many things that can go wrong, leaving no money for food, even though we do live in a welfare state. It's in those moments of crisis that Sufra is there to help. So it is a frontline, last resort charity. We don't encourage dependence. We provide a maximum 4-week support in a year. But alongside our other services, we try to get people back on their feet. So it's catching and moving. We are a new charity. Sorry, I shriek. We are a new charity and still developing our services. And I'll go through what they are. That there's the food bank itself, which collects donated food and redistributes it to families in need. And the mechanism is that individuals and families who have acquired a voucher can access the food bank on Wednesdays and Sundays between noon and 3, and receive a parcel of food lasting up to 5 days. We don't issue the vouchers. The vouchers are issued by referral agencies who assess the applicant's need. So we're not just standing there handing out food. This is trying to tap into those organisations that already have a footprint in poverty and need. We have guidelines as to what our Sufras, we are a charity, we raise money for purposes, and therefore we have guidelines on what is an appropriate need, but those are assessed by these agencies. For example, the Almazan Charitable Trust is one of the referral agencies. There are resettlement agencies, there are energy solution agencies, there are victim support groups, and even Brent Council's welfare assistance team actually generate about a third of our referrals. The use of this is, our target is roughly 12 households per session. There's 2 sessions every week. But for example, last Wednesday there were 26 vouchers were redeemed. The food kitchen provides hot meals to individuals and families every Friday between 6:30 and 9:30. It's a freshly prepared, there's a kitchen at our premises, so it's a freshly prepared 3-course meal. And to deal with all sensitivities, it's vegetarian, so that keeps it simple. No booking or reservations are required, and we encourage not just those in need, but also local residents to come, to create an environment of eating beside those who really do need the services of the kitchen. It's a very sensitive area. I mean, even the term food kitchen is sensitive. We get in excess of 30 people attending each week, and up to between 30 and 40 people attend every week. Another service is the Food Academy, which is designed, it's using the kitchen when it's not being used for preparing food. It's aimed at young people under 25, and it provides a basic cooking skills course. During the course, the participants will learn up to cook about 10 home-cooked meals, to understand nutrition, how to maintain a healthy diet, and how to manage a weekly budget. It's an accredited qualification which can be used to apply for an apprenticeship or employment in the catering industry. The course is run over 6 weeks with a 4-hour session every Saturday. Each session has up to 8 students, and the dropout rate is roughly 20%, so that's not bad, as in 80% stay on. We're particularly keen on supporting those not in education or employment or training, those about to leave care or who have left care, those with previous history of drug or alcohol misuse, those with mental health problems, and ex-offenders. flick my page now. There's the vegetables box scheme, which is another service that we are... This is an interesting one because it taps into Sufra's ability to be able to access wholesale prices for foods. So we have a process where users by 1 p.m. on Wednesday come and hand in their shopping list and pay for the food, and then on the Friday they come and collect it. Now, I said it's problematic because there's an element of commercial arrangement about it. People are buying food. It's discounted food, but they're still buying it. But they're not picking it. You know, your usual experience in going to a shop is you pick the apples and stuff that you get. So the fact that the fruit and vegetables that are collected on Friday aren't necessarily what people might have picked from the shelf themselves is an interesting challenge to this. And it's one of those areas we're looking at. Is it as good an idea as we thought it was? Then the welfare service surgeries are only open to users of existing services. In other words, those who turn up, we provide a sort of advice centre, but it's a very basic advice centre. And it's really meeting people's needs as they present themselves. Generally, it can be things like helping somebody with their CV for a job application, online benefit forms, and who to talk to at what agencies to try and get help. It's a tricky one because structurally we're aware of the liability of giving bad advice, wrong advice. So, but we're also aware that those who present themselves often need help to deal with a complex world. And so it's a time-consuming service, it's a problematic service, but it's one that really does feel like it's meeting a need. And then our glamour project, I suppose you could call it, is the food growing project. Beside our site on the St. Raphael's estate in Brent, there was some unused land, and the council gave it to us to build an edible garden. And it's very popular as a concept with the residents and the community. But we're at that rather boring stage, which is clearing the site and putting in the beds, because they need to be raised beds. And if you look at it, you'd think, if you're a gardener, you'd think, have you ever grow anything in that? So it's at, and also, we're at the time of the year where, for the last few months, doing that kind of work in winter isn't very interesting or glamorous or fun. But it's one that we think deserves a lot of energy, and we're putting a lot of energy into that. Now, I said this was a case study in addressing food poverty. So, Sufra is almost 3 years old. So, how did it start? And a lot of credit goes to Mohammed Mamdani, who's our director, who is a very energetic young man, who had previously worked for Al-Mazan. So he has a background in charity, but he did his homework on how do you set up and sustain a food bank. And he looked around and he could see that there were problems. I mean, the need for it is there. People who just don't have enough money for food is clear. But how do you create a charity that will address that and continue to do it effectively? So the establishment model really was to get it off the ground. I mean, how was it going to get off the ground? And the model was to get a diverse partnership of charities to sponsor the startup by committing to support both financially and manpower-wise for 3 years. And there's the Al-Mazan Charitable Trust was one of those, the Beta Charitable Trust, the Salam Centre, and the Islamic Unity Society, all agreed to provide. They nominated trustees for our board, and they guaranteed a certain amount of money. Now, the money is important, but it actually only accounts for about 20% of Sufra's financial resources. And that ends at the end of March. So we're now at the transformation from getting it off the ground to making it sustainable. And there are challenges in that. And it's a challenge for all organisations, not just a food charity. First, one good question to sort of tease out the problems is, Should a frontline charity stay small? Should an organisation like Sufra, which is very ground up, it's very reliant on support from the local community, should it stay small? One advantage of being small is that it does get that local buy-in. The number of Sufra's volunteers is, I think, an indication of that community. There are 3 or 4 people working full-time for Sufra, and there are almost 100 volunteers who give 2 hours a week, roughly, to the organisation. But there's a challenge to staying small. Sufra relies heavily on the drive and energy of the founding drive and energy, and that's usually driven by somebody who wants to do something new. And you can see in the range of services that I've described that we don't just do one thing, we do a few things. But how do you plan for business as usual? And once something's up and running, how's that business as usual energy brought in? And it may be that the challenge is to resist the urge to grow. Or it may be that we find some way of harnessing this development energy while maintaining that ground-up energy that we have. And that's our next challenge, and that's what the current Board of Trustees is going to have to address over the next year or two. Because we need to ensure that Sufra's sustainability is maintained for the benefit of those who need it. It is a charity that addresses a need. And secondly, I think we need to prove its sustainability because we believe it is a working model for how you set up and sustain a food poverty charity. So we need to actually demonstrate not just the setting up, but the sustainability of it. Thank you very much.